Good morning, lovely Year Sixes and anyone else from school who is taking part in the cooking challenge this week. We are going to make some fajitas. I'm going to do some vegetarian ones, but it's really easy to change up to make it vegan or to add meat as well. So hopefully you can follow along and enjoy cooking dinner for your family. So our ingredients for our vegetarian fajitas are firstly the protein. So we've got some red kidney beans and some cannellini beans and some mushrooms. If you did want to make it with meat, you can also put chicken in there as well. Then we've got our vegetables. You can be really flexible with which vegetables you can use. They can be frozen or they can be fresh, just whatever you have got in the fridge and the vegetables that your family like. We've then got our seasoning, and you've got two choices. You can either use paprika, chilies, cumin and garlic granules, and you'll need a pestle and mortar, or you might have a pre-made seasoning for fajitas. And then we've got the bits that are going to go with it. So we've got the wraps, lettuce and some Greek yogurt or salsa or sour cream dip. Okay, first thing you need to make sure you've done is you need to make sure you've washed your hands for at least 20 seconds and also washed any of the fresh vegetables you've got. Just under the tap, just rinse them off and just make sure they're nice and clean, and then we are ready to prep our veg. Please make sure you're being nice and safe. We are going to be using a knife. Make sure you've asked your adult at home what knife you're allowed to use, and if you're younger, make sure you're getting help with your chopping. So with your onion, you need to chop the ends off, and then you can cut it in half, and then you're ready to peel off that outer layer of onion. It's really handy to have a little bowl or a little pot with you, so that when you've got your rubbish, you can just put it straight in there, and then it can go straight into your compost bin or your normal bin. Okay, so when you're chopping your onion, make sure that you're not getting your fingers in the way, so that you've got your knuckles here, and then you're going to slice down, but not quite all the way through. Being really careful of your fingers, and then if you do one slice down the middle, and then you can chop down like this, and you can get small chunks of onion. Okay, so now with any of your other vegetables, try and cut them at like a similar sort of size. Chop the ends off, and you can cut them into whatever shapes you like, really. I like to do them so you get a few, and then you cut them into smaller pieces like this. It's quite nice when you add it into your fajitas, but you can cut them any way you'd like. So then moving on to our carrots, we need to peel our carrots first. That's why it's so handy to have a little pot with you. You peel it first, be really careful of your fingers because the peeler is still sharp. And then once you've peeled it, you can chop both ends off and then cut it to a similar size that you've just been doing. So again, being really careful with your fingers, and then you're ready to cut it. Okay, with your pepper, I like to have pepper in slightly bigger chunks. So if you start with it upside down and just go around the side, it should come out that the pips just stay in the middle, but you have got to be really careful when you're cutting this. And the last little bit. And then I like to have these in strips to give a bit more texture in the fajitas, so you can do them as big as you would like. It's probably a bit big, so probably like in half, so it's a bit more texture. And then do that with your whole pepper. So with your celery, just take off both ends. And then you're just slicing it as you go along. So we've got most of the vegetables prepped, just the mushrooms to do, but whilst I'm here, we're going to prep the salad. So I'm just going to use some lettuce and some tomatoes, and then it can be added into the wrap by however much people like it. So if you just peel the leaves off in whatever sort of lettuce you've got, and then you can go and wash them before you cut them up. Okay, once you have washed your lettuce, you can either leave them like this and then people can just add them in their wraps one at a time, but I quite like them sliced, so I'm just going to get a few pieces of lettuce together at a time and then just slice them, being nice and careful that I move my hands back as I'm cutting. And then I've just got a bowl ready that I can add my salad into. So now that my lettuce is prepped, I'm just going to take my tomatoes. You don't have to use tomatoes into your salad if you don't want to, but we like them. So we're just going to take a tomato, after you've washed them, cut it in half really carefully, and then just add them straight onto the salad. So I've added the tomatoes into the salad. I've also added a little bit of the celery, and then I'm going to leave the rest to add into the fajitas. And we're now ready to do the mushrooms. So you need to open up the mushrooms and then make sure they're washed really well, because they get lots of muddy bits on the mushrooms. So make sure they're washed, and you can also take off these bits, because these bits get the most dirty. Okay, so with the mushrooms, once they're washed and then you cut the stalks off, you can finally slice them. Nice and easy to cut mushrooms. I like them sort of like this size, but if you've got people in your family who don't like mushrooms, you can just cut them up pretty small and people won't even know they're there. Okay, so the final bit of our prep is that we need to open and wash our beans. So it doesn't matter which beans you have in your cupboard at all, you just need to empty them. Sometimes you need to use some water to help, and then you need to make sure that you wash them. So you need to do the same with whichever beans that you are using. Be really careful when you open the tins. If you need to, ask your adult at home to open them for you, and then you need to make sure you give them a nice wash before you add them in. Okay, so we have done all of our prep now, and then now we are ready to start cooking. So I moved everything into the kitchen because I had a nice space to work to do all the prepping, and then now we are ready to cook. So you need to get your pan and then turn your hob onto a low heat. If you need help, ask for it. Then make sure your pan is on the heat with the handle facing away from the heat, and then you're just going to put a little bit of oil into the middle to heat up. If you don't have oil, you can just add a little bit of water. So after about a minute, the oil will start to be warm, and then you can add in your onions, nice and carefully. So your onions are in there, and then you need either a wooden spoon or something that you can mix with, and just mix them around so that they're covered in oil, and just leave them there for a couple of minutes. So after your onions have been cooking for a couple of minutes, you can add in your carrots and your courgettes. So you're basically adding in the vegetables that you would like to cook the most. So carrots, they need lots of cooking, and courgettes. And the ones you want to stay a little bit more crunchy, like your peppers, they're going to go in nearer the end. So just cook those off for about 5 minutes. So whilst they are cooking off, I'm going to take this opportunity to mix some of our spices together. So firstly, we're going to get some cumin seeds, about a teaspoonful. So about a teaspoonful of those, and then you need to use your pestle and mortar to grind them down. So now they are broken up. Remember, you can use the fajita mix at any time. If you do want to do it like this, you can. You can then add in some of your paprika. Again, about a teaspoonful. A teaspoonful of paprika, and then a tiny bit of chilies. I don't like things too spicy, so I'm literally going to add in just a pinch with my hands, and then in. I've then added in a teaspoon of the garlic granules, and then just a little bit of water to make it mix into more of a paste. So that is my seasoning ready, or I could use my seasoning here. Everything has been cooking within there so far for 5 minutes, and just added in the mushrooms and peppers ready to mix up. I've got this on a medium heat, and then I'm going to let it cook for another 5 minutes before I add in the beans. All of the vegetables are cooking nicely, so I'm now ready to add my beans into the mixture. Remember, we've cleaned them, that's really important. Then I'm ready to give them a good mix around with all the vegetables. This has got so much nutrients in, it's got the protein from the beans, so it'll be nice and healthy for us. And soon we'll add our frozen veg and the spices. 5 minutes on and the beans are starting to heat up and all the vegetables are still cooking. We're now going to add our frozen veg. So I've got some soybeans because they are going to add some protein. You basically can add whatever you've got in your freezer or your fridge with the vegetables. Go with whichever vegetables your family likes. We are also now going to add the celery. I like to keep the celery nice and crunchy, so I like to add it in nearer the end so it's still got that texture to it. Okay, so just while that is cooking, we've got to keep stirring it. And it should take about 5 minutes for those frozen vegetables to cook down. If you did want to use meat, maybe you want to use mince or chicken, whatever you wanted to use, you need to add it in after the onions. So you do the onions first, then add in your meat. The most important thing is that you check it's cooked. So if it's chicken, you need to make sure it's white the whole way through, and I would get an adult to check just in case. And if it's beef mince, it needs to be brown the whole way through. So that's really, really important. I really like meat, it just is that I don't have any meat at the moment, so we're doing it veggie, and we're trying to eat more vegetarian meals. But if you want to add meat, you can do, just make sure it is cooked all the way through and get your adult to check. I have just added in the spices and then some tomato puree I found as well in the cupboard, and then I'm going to add some water in to help it make a sauce and mix it all up. I did 150 millilitres of water. If you do have tinned tomatoes in your cupboard, you could also add those in at this stage as well. So we're going to mix that all up. It's going to take a while to properly mix up, and then we're going to let that sauce just reduce for about 10 minutes. So we've got a lovely little sauce in it. I've just moved some of the vegetables out of the way so you can see what I mean. So at the moment I've just put it in and it's watery, so we need to turn it up a little bit until it is bubbling, and then eventually that moisture will come away and you'll be left with a richer flavour underneath. If you do want to add more spices you can, if that's what your family likes. I like it nice and mild. It is bubbling away, and whilst it's bubbling and I'm waiting for it to reduce, I'm going to grate some cheese. Use vegan cheese or dairy-free cheese if you would like to, and the same with the yoghurt. I'm going to put some yoghurt in a bowl with some herbs. If you've got fresh herbs, that's fantastic. I don't at the moment. And then we will be getting ready to serve. This is after about 10 minutes and the sauce is getting more and more reduced as we go. I'm now going to add some salt and pepper, and then get the wraps ready and lay the table. Next, you need to ask your adult to help you transfer your mixture into a serving bowl. I've just done half because there's only 2 of us, but this recipe should serve 4. And then I've also got ready on a plate some wraps. So these are wholemeal wraps, and I would go with 2 per person. You can either wrap them in tin foil and put them into the oven for about 5 minutes, or you can just put them into the microwave for about 20 seconds just to heat them up, or you can just have them cold. You can then lay the table with everything you need. So you've got the wraps, you've got the fajita mixture, the cheese, the yogurt or the sour cream, and your salad, and you are ready to go. So I hope you enjoy cooking, and I hope that your family appreciate having a meal cooked for them. Send me some pictures if you do manage to cook this meal, and enjoy.